Okie dokie. We're moving along. And I want to go back to my lead vocal over here. And one of the parts of the assignment is that you guys are going to have to, let me take this off. We were using that for a headphone mix in the studio. I want the lead vocals. I should write that in. Lead vocals. I want the lead vocal to go right to its own dedicated reverb. Now, I just made a new auxiliary channel. It's over here. I'm going to call this lead vocals reverb. Now, this is what's going to be different about this than bussing from down here, right? I am going to be using bussing, but I'm going to take a bus and I'm going to be working from these things that are called sends. And, I'm going to do this just for organizational purposes. I'm going to delete all of these sends that I'm using. Two, let's get rid of one. Cool. All right. Now, anytime that we want to have what we call an effect send, I already called this reverb over here. Oh, by the way, let's do this up front. It's easier. I am going to make this bus 23. Right here. I'm going to put a reverb here. Reverb. Chroma verb. See if I could find a nice little, oh, there's no plate in here. Huh. I'm going to try this thing that says vocal chamber. Now, every time that you set up an effect send, we talked about this. This will be its dedicated video, I guess. The reverb or whatever effect that you're going to be using in this channel, you will see in almost every plugin, you will have the opportunity to say how much of the original dry signal that you want sent in here, or do you want it to be, I don't know, 50-50, blah, blah, blah. Now, you would use this if you were putting the reverb directly on the track itself, but we're not doing that. So what we're going to have in theory is two different signals. And we get two different signals because I'm using bus 23. Okay, so look, the copy that I'm making on this bus is going to be on bus 23. The level of it by itself, let's just do this. I'm going to solo these. Here's my lead vocal, right? This copy up here that we're using for effects processing is going to wind up over here. You see where I'm saying bus 23, the sending a copy over here to this auxiliary channel that's called lead vocal reverb. The little knob here will let you know how much. This is the wet signal. Down here, the main fader, which I'm moving up and down, this is the dry signal, right? This is the original signal that's coming in that we've been hearing all along. But now what I'm doing is kind of working this in parallel with the copy of a signal that's going here. Now we're going to have a copy with some kind of reverb on it with the dry signal, sounding like. And what you lost. Right? You can, so at any point, you can say, you know what? I don't want this effect to sound like it's so much. Maybe you just have a little bit of it. And what you lost. Right? Or maybe you want a lot of reverb. Thunder only happens when it's raining. Right? Players only love you when they're playing. So I'm able to give the voice some space. Now, here, and we discussed this in class right now. I'm going to go back and just put this as part of the assignment. By design, what happens is that the send is going to be controlled by the main level of this fader, the volume fader. So what I'm saying is that if, let me move this out of the way. If I drag down the level of the lead vocal, the level of this comes down as well. Right? And you hear nothing. But if I slowly, so now you hear it. Everything is in proportion to one another. If this is way down here, then the level of this comes down as well. And that kind of makes sense when you think about it. I don't want to hear a lot of reverb in this main faders all the way down. This is what we call post fader, meaning that the fader is controlling the send. There'll be certain times where you want to have this, and maybe for live situations, this is called pre-fader, right? So what I'm doing here is that now the two are separate. Even if I bring down the level of the lead vocal, right? This, now you'll be able to hear the wet signal, and now you'll understand the difference between why it's a wet and dry signal. This is the wet signal by itself. And what you are. So now, see my fader all the way down? You can hear this independently. Now, that's my wet signal. I'm going to mix in the dry signal. And what you are. Thunder only happens when it's raining. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make this a bigger reverb so you hear it better. Cool. And what you lost. Thunder only happens when it's raining. So I took the dry signal out. Now we're just hearing the copy. Players only love you when they're playing. All right. So you're going to be using this on your lead vocal track. I'm not going to go through the rest of the example, but part of the directions are you're going to have a separate set. You know what? If I'm doing this right now, I'll just do it. Your background vocals. I'm going to copy this over. I'm going to put the background vocals on 24, right? And I'm going to change the quality of this. I'm going to make this vocal hall. Cool. And I'm going to make the background vocal one. I didn't mean to put a dot there. I'm going to make the chroma verb like a dull room. Right. So you'll see the difference in the two. The vocal, the lead vocal has a 2 second and 30 millisecond delay. All right. And the background vocal, which I should name, let's call this background reverb, is not going to sound anywhere close to this one. So this one is going to be like a cheap, dulled, shorter reverb. Oh, once again, since it's going on the auxiliary track for the effects send, it's going to be 100% wet. Now, because these are grouped from earlier, if I say, hey, these will all be bus 24. Yeah, like that. So now, they're all being controlled as a group, and it'll sound like this. Let me solo these. And what you lost. Thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you when they're playing. All right, so this reverb, and if you want to check your work, once you go to the auxiliary tracks, it's very easy to kind of figure out what's happening. You're just reading the signal flow. Hey, this track over here has an input, right? Input, output, that's going to be your friends, of bus 24. where are the signals coming from that are entering this track? Look at this. Lo and behold, right here, bus 24. And this could be anything else, right? So your background vocals and lead vocals are going to have two different reverbs. And I think I'm going to put the guitars. They might have a third reverb. I just want people just to start practicing just this whole concept of what the aux tracks are going to be doing. They're going to be doing what? One, housing a group, right? A submix, but the other one is going to be an effects send. You're sending effects to an auxiliary track, and you have to put the effect in, right? Cool. So that'll be part of the assignment as well.